Welcome back to Pal2Pal Podcast, where we dive into the real stories and strategies shaping global work. In today's episode, I'm excited to be heading to APAC with a special focus on the Philippines, one of the fastest growing hubs for global talent. From outsourcing to compliance, from culture to retention, the Philippines has become a critical piece of the puzzle for companies building remote teams. Joining me today is Erwin and co-founder of Remotify. Erwin has over a decade of global leadership experience and now helps international companies tap into the Philippines talent pool. Erwin, thank you very much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started Remotify?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rich. Really appreciate it. So, as you mentioned, thank you for the introduction. I am the co-founder of Remotify. We are an employer of record here in the Philippines, focused only on the Philippines, helping international businesses who want to set up teams and hire great talents from here. We started back in 2021 when, right in the middle of the pandemic, we actually saw so many people working from home. We saw so many people that are needing talents. And whereas both me and Maria, we worked together in a global company prior, and we were all the time telling people, why are you hiring back in London? Why are you hiring back in Amsterdam when you can actually build your team here in the Philippines? And while we're doing that internally, we thought we should actually make this bigger. And that's when we decided to do this together and to help more businesses than only the business we worked for at the time to start growing this with teams in the Philippines.
Perfect. Yeah, that's very interesting. I actually have a lot of experience kind of like working with a lot of companies in the Philippines and obviously, setting up some office spaces there. Back in the day, I used to be in the call center market. So yeah, I've kind of had that experience as well. The Philippines obviously has been eyed by international companies when it comes to outsourcing talent. What makes it such an attractive destination for global companies?
Yeah, the Philippines is really an amazing country to hire due to strategic location. So there's location, language, and personality. Actually, we have those three. So when we break it down, the location where we are in a place where obviously salaries are a bit lower than in the Western world, we see that companies can benefit from that. That is the most obvious one. However, when you look at the language, the Americans already came to the Philippines back in 1898, and they started to teach Filipinos English already from that moment on. And that's something that is still very present here right now. So, for example, simple things, all street signs are in English, all laws are in English. When you look at schools, 80% of the subjects are actually being taught in English. And that is something that, seeps through in everything. For many Filipinos, English is their first or their second language that they are growing up with all the time. For me, say shame on me, I live here for 7 years and my Filipino is still not very great, simply because even when I try, people are still replying to me in English. And when you look at the local language, Tagalog, actually we call it more Taglish. There's so much English in between that you can get a grasp of what is being said, even without speaking the local language. So that is something that is super present and is a big benefit for companies when they hire people. And the last one is personality. Filipinos are really amazing. They bring a quality, grit, and energy that is super rare to find elsewhere. At least for me, I've not seen it anywhere where I went. And that's something that most companies may not understand straight off the bat. But as soon as then they realize this, it becomes one of the reasons why they like to grow their team here in the Philippines instead of elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I visited the Philippines, I pretty much went to a lot of places there. Obviously, one of my favorite is Jollibee. As far as the food there, I think that's kind of like the main attraction. So, in regards to like outsourcing in the Philippines, it used to be really focused on call centers and customer support. I think a lot of U.S. companies and European companies tended to outsource, this part of the company to the Philippines because it used to be adapted to that way. So how has that profile of outsourced work in the Philippines changed as of the pandemic?
Yeah, so indeed, when you look at the start of outsourcing in the Philippines, the main roles were in call centers simply again because of the great English of Filipinos. But now we see that all those companies were so satisfied with hiring their talents here that they're moving into other roles as well. So when we look at for us, we don't focus on hiring call center roles. I mean, there are other business models that are probably a better fit for this, and they are specialized in that. We only hire knowledge workers. So that is from marketing teams to finance teams to developers. We even have a client who works with autistic young adults back in the US, and all their virtual support professionals are being hired in the Philippines. They're all SPED teachers, and they are actually teaching those young adults how to, work and start to apply for jobs, and because they understand them better. So those are the kind of roles that are now being hired in the Philippines versus the old school model of only voice-related call center work.
Do you think outsourcing is now less about cutting costs and more about finding the right people where they are?
Yeah, the answer to it will always remain to be yes and no, right? And we always promise our clients that we're going to be able to hire the best talents for the best price. Um, However, I'm also fully aware that if the salaries would be the same here as, for example, in the US, companies would be more likely maybe to hire locally. But having said that, we definitely see for our clients that finding the best people, that is their main goal, and not necessarily the cutting of cost. So we're going to help them with that. We're going to be able to find them the best talents, and according to our clients, right? Again, the quality, the grit, that is something that they cannot find at home. So other things you see shifting in the importance. So that combined with the cost advantage, that makes that still the Philippines in every way is a great solution.
Yeah, definitely. And in regards to hybrid work and remote work, gaining traction in the Philippines, do you think employees prefer, the fully remote setup, or do you like going to the office?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, of course, everybody started to work from home, and we saw very clearly that when the RTO was pretty much implemented, right? The return to office, we saw a massive spike in applications for roles that we have open, but also just roles we didn't have open. People just started sending their CVs because they really wanted to work remote. Now, you've been to the Philippines, so you know this a little bit. I love everything in the Philippines, but there's one thing I don't like, and that is the traffic. We don't measure distance in kilometers here, but we measure it in time. So, for example, where we live to the nearest business district is about 20 kilometers. However, we measure it in time, so it's about 2 hours away. And during the pandemic, people start to realize, like, wow, I'm wasting all this time that I can spend with my family, with my friends. I don't want this anymore. So more and more people really wanted to work remote. And I think for many, hybrid is like the lesser evil when they are being asked to come fully to the office. But we notice a lot that so many people really want to work remote. That is a far their preference.
Perfect. And in regards to kind of like the risk of talent drain with Filipinos professionals, do you see any talent draining at any aspect of, any type of company? Or what is the talent pool like?
Yeah, so in the Philippines as well, this has been a major thing. We need the talent drain. We call it often the brain drain. Over the years of the past, we've seen a lot of doctors, nurses, highly skilled employees that are moving to other countries in search really of better opportunities. And that's a worrying trend that's been going on over the past. Um, but what we now can do is we can give great opportunities to Filipinos. They can have great jobs, earn a good salary, but stay in their own country, live with their own families. And one of the things that we are very proud of is that we already hired multiple ex-OFWs, that's how we call it, so overseas Filipino workers, for roles for our clients. So they actually used to be abroad. They came back and now they have a role here, and they're super happy to stay in the Philippines, living the life they always did with their family, with their kids, with their parents, and while still doing a great job at work. So that's something that we're very happy to kind of reverse that brain thing.
Definitely. So I know in your company, with Remotify, you help a lot of companies with the compliance. And obviously, some of the biggest headaches could be that when you're entering a new market. What are some of the main pitfalls you see businesses fall into when they hire in the Philippines without using a trusted partner as yourself?
Yeah, the number one pitfall we see is still companies hiring contractors. In the Philippines, contractors are actually just misqualified employees. They work directly for foreign companies. They work full time for those companies, but they don't get any of their employee rights. So they don't get their social contributions. They don't have their taxes paid. They don't get their health insurance. And this is something that is, when I look at it, an increasingly big problem uh, because in other parts of the world, if you're a contractor, you're still taking care of all those things for yourself. But in the Philippines, that's pretty much impossible. So, with their social contributions not being paid and their taxes not being paid, um, for employees, that really means so much. On the short term, they may have higher salary, but on the longer term, they can't buy a car, they can't buy a home because they can't get a loan because they don't have any employment records. If they want to travel abroad, they can't because they don't have an employer, so they are not going to be allowed a visa. Those are already things that are very important. At the other side, for companies, it means that they're having huge compliance risk as well. And especially when you look at Australian companies nowadays, I'm not sure if you are also aware what happened, but there's been a court case where the court ruled that a company that fired a Filipino contractor was illegal, and they had to reinstate her, pay back wages, and then also they ruled that they had to pay her Australian minimum wages. And that would have never happened. That company went by an employer of record. So the impact on the client side can also be massive, and it can really run into, incredibly high charges for companies.
Yeah, definitely. And I think right now with all of this, we can definitely see that most of the EORs that are out there that, such as yourself, we can probably gain a lot of information from not having those issues. Perfect. In regards to kind of like to the specific industries that we currently see, the Philippines has been a long global leader in BPO, specifically in call centers and customer support, as we have already mentioned. Are you seeing a shift from traditional voice-based customer service toward more specialized areas like chat support, social media management, or AI augmented services in the Philippines?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see, especially prior, right? The major big companies were hiring thousands of people in one go all for voice support. And nowadays, the whole thing shifts. So we see that for sure. And because we are working in the market where we only hire knowledge workers, we see a high demand for these kind of skills. Also, when it comes to developers, uh, marketeers, all these kind of roles are increasingly important for companies to hire versus only the old school outsourcing model of voice support.
Perfect. That's very great, insightful. In regards, obviously going beyond customer service, what other roles do you help hire people for at Remotify?
Yeah, when we look at the popular roles at the moment, we see any finance role. So from a bookkeeper to accounts payable, from CPAs to controllers, growing rapidly. And really, the world now starts to understand that they can hire these kind of roles safely overseas as well, because the controls on company are also getting better and easier. So, and since they know that they manage those people directly, um, they see that becomes increasingly important. Same for digital marketing. We notice that all kind of marketing roles are very popular to outsource. Filipinos are naturally very creative, and that makes that the roles in social media, which is very popular here, of course, as well, and marketing are happening, and developers are upcoming. We're not yet India, right? India is, of course, in the IT and the tech, they are the number one, um, without a doubt. But we see that the talent is getting better and better, and that therefore companies are hiring more and more, especially companies that are already hiring here. They're thinking, let me let me try that out as well, and therefore we see a shift to the more technical roles here.
Yeah, definitely. I think right now, as of this year, TechSpal also opened up their office in the Philippines. We're hiring a lot of the logistics fulfillment roles, and I think that's a very good market to oversee all of our APAC operations. I think as far as, the Philippines, Malaysia, those kind of countries are very good to oversee kind of like the APAC operations since their time zone is also very good with managing that particular market. In regards to hiring these people, what companies are you seeing the most that are opening up offices in the Philippines? Like, what is the specific industry that you're seeing? Is it more fintech companies or what type of organizations?
Yeah, it's broad, right? Because it's no longer like company minded, but it's more role minded of what they're looking at. But we see a lot of data analytics, indeed a lot of technical roles where developers, etc., are becoming bigger. So that is where I see a great shift. But in general, um, even though everybody's saying with AI, a lot of roles are gonna disappear, I truly believe that we are far from at the peak of where outsourcing is going to be, simply because we have a lack of people in the Western world, right? So there's going to be about 85 million jobs unfilled in the West, and there's going to be 3 billion people in emerging markets that are going to be added to the talent pool over the next coming years. This is the place where people are going to be hiring for any type of role, and the higher skilled the roles are, I think the better it is for the regions.
And I think that's a very good topic to touch base on. I think as far as our last two podcasts, AI has been a repetitive topic, and I think right now a lot of companies are embracing AI, and obviously it's to automate a lot of the manual processes, right? I think automation and the use of any chat AI agent or agentic type style of agent does will not replace completely a particular role. I think it's obviously to automate and to have a faster execution of everything that that role may entail. And obviously, what we want to do is automate specific manual processes of inputting information or filling out specific items. And I think a lot of the AI items are going towards that type of realm. Um, Specifically, in regards to AI, what other trends do you see that are occurring right now within the Philippines, as far as in the coming year? What do you see happening with the talent pool? Do you see any shift in changes in hiring, or what other trends that you currently have captured right now that you currently see um, developing in the next couple of months and years?
Yeah, I really think that tech roles and software development roles are going to be growing rapidly, and we see a shift indeed from India for these kind of roles into the Philippines for these kind of roles. So I really believe that over the coming years, that's going to get more and more. Um, Other than that, finance roles, more companies are building their whole finance team around like one or two persons abroad, and then everybody else in the Philippines to maintain and to set up the whole team. Now, with that, we also see because teams are growing, you see extra levels, right? So you see supervisors coming in, you see managers coming in, higher and higher roles are being added for every team. So I really believe that um, on that scale, we're going to keep on growing the outsourcing space on every level in every business. And we see businesses that are truly focusing their business model around their team in the Philippines. So they hire a bare minimum amount back in the US, for example, simply because they are compliantly required to have a role there, or because there's face-to-face requirements in their local country. Other than that, we built a full team in the Philippines simply because they trust that it helps their business model financially and quality wise.
Yeah, definitely. And just to dive into a little bit deeper into your organization at Remotify, what services do you specifically provide to your clients? I know it's EOR. Do you also do payroll outsourcing? Can you tell us a little bit more about the types of services that you do?
Yeah, so the core of what we do is indeed we're an EOR. So we take care of all the HR aspects from payroll to the actual human side of AR, of HR, which we think is very important. And the payroll, everything is included in that. Other than that, we can, of course, help them with the equipment. So also thanks to you guys. And we can help them to source the right talents as well. So in that we have a broad scale of service to be able to be end-to-end supplier for our clients.
Perfect. Well, that's very insightful, and I'm glad that we learned a lot today in regards to, what are the trends in the Philippines. We're very grateful to have you as our trusted partner in the Philippines for EOR service. And I know some of our clients, whenever they need to hire abroad in the Philippines, we're sure to connect them with you. In regards to the specific trends that we're seeing, with software development, finance, we are seeing a lot of companies hire in the Philippines, and I think that's where it's going to be an additional global hub right now, just as it is in other countries as well. But in regards to this, I know that it's dominating the outsourcing, and obviously you're able to get a lot more talent for a very cost-effective price. And be able to get very good talent pool, and I think right now, as of the pandemic, that completely shifted. And I think the Philippines, just as LATAM did, we were in that focus where a lot of companies were very reluctant, right, to hire globally. And I think right now it's not about price, it's more about where we can find the best talent. And I think that's I think as far as me myself being in the EOR space and HR space for the last 8 years, it's a true testament that companies, they're borderless. There's no barriers anymore into hiring. In a 3 mile radius, I think right now everybody's hiring where they want and where they can find that talent. And I think as if you go to LinkedIn, it says APAC, it says LATAM. It's not specifically to a country anymore. It's opening up to that particular market. But thank you very much for the thoughtful conversation, Erwin. You've shown us how the Philippines isn't just an outsourcing hub, it's a great talent pool. It's a partner for global growth built on talent and compliance, and obviously working alongside your organization. I feel a lot of companies are going to get a lot of benefits from. To our listeners, if you're exploring outsourcing or global hiring, make sure to check out Remotify and connect with Erwin. The future of work is borderless, and companies like Remotify are obviously making that possible. This has been Pal2Pal, where we dive into real stories and strategies behind global work. I'm your host, Rich Guerra, and I'll see you next month with another guest. And Erwin, I don't know if you want to share your social medias for your companies. How are you listed in LinkedIn? Or if there's any other pages that we can find you at?
Yeah, no, definitely. So everybody can find us at remotify.ph. And on LinkedIn, we are Remotify PH. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram. And if you're happy to connect, you can find myself, Erwin Kwok, as well on LinkedIn.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for having me, Rich. Somebody who is a great remote now is somebody who has set themselves up great in their home to be able to work. So they have a proper desk, a proper chair to sit on, and usually already with one or even two monitors, and they make themselves ready for the future of work to be able to work from home.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.